In this video, I'm going to be talking about the modified Greek style of speech. This is how I want everybody on the team to go ahead and think about when they go ahead and formulating your speeches. It is not a natural style of speaking, so it's something that you can only get good at it by practicing, and so you need to practice. But here's the thing, you cannot just practice in class. This is something that you have to think about all the time. You have to think about when you're talking in other classes, you can do the same thing. When you're at home and trying to imagine what you're going to be doing at conferences and how you're going to present yourself, I want you to be thinking along this style. So the first thing you should do is you should open up the document entitled Modified Greek Style Speech. And while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and I'll start talking and explaining it. As you'll see at the beginning, the Greek philosopher Aristotle divided the means of persuasion into three categories: ethos, pathos, and logos. Aristotle was a fan of pathos, and that's fine. But in order to be an effective delegate, you have to be able to employ all three elements whenever possible. So the document that you're looking at, or will be looking at in a second, is a document that we're going to be used to evaluate you and your speeches during simulations. And you will also, by the way, be using this document to go ahead and evaluate other people, both newer members of the team and the veteran members of the team. So first I want to go over the ethos, logos, and pathos and elaborate on them a little bit more. First, in ethos, it says, was the speaker credible, authoritative, and believable? One of the most important things in giving any kind of speech or any kind of presentation is going ahead and having people believe that you are a credible source of information. If you go ahead and you stand in front of a group and start talking to them about whatever the topic happens to be, but you don't look like you believe yourself, you don't look like you trust your own worthiness and your own capacity as an expert, they're not going to believe you, and they shouldn't. Right? And the same thing, when you watch someone speak, and if they look like they're always questioning themselves, doubting themselves, they're not sure, they're hedging on what they say, you're not going to believe them, nor should you. Right? So here's the key in terms of ethos. The only people that you should believe are people who seem to believe themselves. The only people that you should have confidence in are the people who seem to have confidence in themselves. That's key. Well, then the question is, how do you go ahead and demonstrate confidence? How do you demonstrate believability, credibility? Well, as you'll see in the table below, it actually starts before you even begin your speech. It starts when you walk up to the front of the committee to go ahead and start giving a speech. If you walk up with your shoulders hunched over, if you walk up with your hands in your pockets, going ahead and kind of looking sheepish, if you're rocking back and forth while you're talking, right? If you look unsteady on your feet, all those things are going to communicate a lack of confidence. All those things are going to communicate the idea that you're not sure about yourself. So it's really important to understand that your speech begins as soon as you stand up to walk to the front of the room. Your speech begins when the chair says, the delegate from Mexico is recognized. And that when you stand up tall. Stand up with your shoulders back and your chest out. Make sure your posture is really good. And when you walk up to the front of the room, walk up there with confidence. Walk up there with assuredness. Project confidence. That's so important. And that's going to matter. It's going to matter because you only get, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times, it's true, you only get one chance to make a first impression. This is your first chance to make an impression. And each time you walk up, it's going to be the same thing. The more confidence you exude, the more confidence people are going to have in you. The second part of this approach is the idea that the argument, the speech that you have to make, that you're going to make, has to be logically and internally consistent. You should build your argument. It should be a step-by-step thing. If you're going to talk about something, lay out some premises and then talk about what you want to do, right? Talk about your proposals. Your first comments should lead to your second comments, which should lead to your third comments, right? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to write out a speech ahead of time. What you want to do is you want to have a bullet point and then another bullet point, and then another bullet point, and another bullet point, especially depending on how much time you're given to speak, right? If the speaker's time is limited to 60 seconds, don't have 4 important points that you want to make, right? Have one main point that you want to hit, and you want to hit solidly. And then the last part, the pathos part. Did your argument have an emotional or a motivational appeal? You have to be motivational. You have to figure out a way to go ahead and grab the attention of the delegates. As you're going to see in committee, and as the veterans already know, most of the time in committee, what's happening is when you're up there giving a speech, people are writing notes. People are thinking about what they're going to say on the next speech. People aren't paying attention. If you can figure out a way, to grab their attention, if you can figure out a way, something you can say or something you can do to grab their attention, but still maintain your credibility, still maintain your authoritative stance, right? That's what you want to do. So you don't want to get up there and go, bah, and yell, right? And get everybody's attention that way, because it's not going to bolster your credibility in any way. It's not going to do anything. But there are a number of things that you can do to grab people's attention. I saw a delegate once give a speech in a committee that was talking about chemical warfare. And he got up there, and the first thing he did is he said, "Let me describe you what the reaction is to sarin gas." And then little by little, he went through the steps and the way somebody dies when they're exposed to sarin gas. And then he moved on to his speech. It was riveting. As a matter of fact, I was standing next to a faculty advisor from Cal State Northridge, and she said that was awesome. That's what you want to be thinking about. Can you go ahead and find a way to present what you want to present, but capture people's attention right away? There was another delegate who was talking about hunger and how many people die, how many children die each day. And so we wanted to demonstrate, I forgot what the statistic was, a child dies of hunger every 6 seconds or something like that. And so he got up there and he just went 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A child just died of hunger. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another child just died. And then he went into his speech. By the time he did the countdown, everybody was paying attention. It was like incredibly effective. And it wasn't because he was saying a whole lot. It was in fact because he was saying a little. So, using the modified Greek style, if you look down at the table, this is what I want you to be thinking about when you do your speeches. First, when you walk up to the podium, or in some committees, you're just going to stand up. The same thing is true when you stand up. If you're in a crisis committee, or if you're in the Security Council, oftentimes you'll just stand up. It's the same thing. When you stand up, there are ways to stand up where you're going to be authoritative. I remember there was one of our delegates, a smaller delegate. She stood up to give a speech, and at one point during the speech, she put her hands on the table and kind of leaned forward a little bit. Barely, almost imperceptibly leaned forward. But she moved a little closer to everybody, and you could see immediately it captured people's attention. You communicate with your body a lot, so go ahead and use that. So, how do you walk up to the podium, or how do you stand up? Then always, every one of your speeches should begin with "Thank you, Honorable Chair and fellow delegates." That's a must. And then you start with your attention grabber. Now, you can't waste a whole bunch of time on the attention grabber. If you've got 60 seconds to speak, you don't want a 35-minute attention grabber, right? If you have a minute and a half or maybe 2 minutes to speak, sure, that's fine. So it's got to be something quick. Then, once you've gone ahead and grabbed everybody's attention, or at least attempted to, then identify the topic you're going to be discussing, and then immediately move to the main point that you're trying to hit, main point or main points, and explain them. Now, what you can do when you walk up is, again, never have a full speech written out. You should only have bullet points. But after you've done all the research that you've done, you shouldn't need to have a speech written out. You should have so much information that you can talk about this topic all day long. As a matter of fact, you'll be talking about this topic all day long, maybe a couple days. So you shouldn't need to have a speech written out. Think about what you want to say and make your points. Then, especially whenever it's possible, return to the attention grabber. You make your point, you explain yourself, and then, for example, in the case of the guy who did the countdown, when he ended by going 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's time for the committee to take action. And he walked back to his chair. And I was like, damn, that was good. Think about that. Say he said he didn't say damn. You return to your attention grabber, say thank you, honorable chair and fellow delegates, and then you walk back as powerfully as you walked up. That's what we're looking for in a speech. I want it to be that when a delegate from College of the Canyons gets up and speaks, that another faculty advisor can walk into the room and look over and go, that's one of yours, right? I can tell that's one of yours because you guys do this thing and you guys are really good at it. That's what I'm looking for. That people automatically know that it's a College of the Canyon student because we've thought out how we're going to present what we're going to say. Not only what we're going to say, but how we're going to say it. Other things that you should be thinking about, the bottom part of the table. If the speaker before you or speakers, two before you, said something that was kind or in keeping with what you want to do, thank them. If you're working in a working group that has been very effective and has helped move the committee forward, make a point of thanking them at some point during your speech. And then it's always a good idea to go ahead at the end after you thank the chair and the fellow delegates to let them know that your working group is meeting in the back corner of the room, and if they want to discuss this more, the topic you've discussed, they should come back and meet with you over there. This is the way that I want you to be speaking. This is how I want your speeches to be structured. The modified Greek style of speech. It's not easy to do it this way. You have to practice. But this is what I'm going to be looking for. This is what the veterans are going to be looking for. This is what I want you to do. Okay? So when you come to class and we are doing practice simulations, I'm going to be walking around and I'm going to be looking to see who, and I don't care if you're a veteran or a newer member of the team, are you following this format? Okay, so that ends the video on the modified Greek style speech. And I'm sorry about my hair, but it's really early.